The smell of popcorn and fried dough always takes me back to the Founders Day Fair in Oak Haven Park. I must have been 9, maybe 10 that summer. Our town wasn't big, but Founders Day was the event of the year. A sprawling carnival of rickety rides, impossible games, and sticky cotton candy wrapped around paper cones. My parents loved it. They'd grown up with it, just like their parents before them. For them, it was pure nostalgia, a comforting slice of small-town tradition. For me, even then, there was always a faint hum of something else beneath the cheerful noise, something unsettling about the forced smiles and the peeling paint on the carousel horses. That particular year, the mid-July heat was thick, pressing down on the park like a damp blanket. The air buzzed with flies and the overlapping jingles of a dozen different rides. My folks had given me a precious $20 bill, folded tightly in my pocket, and the weight of it felt like infinite possibility. I'd already blown 5 on a ring toss game where the hoops seemed to magically shrink mid-air, and another 2 on lukewarm lemonade that tasted mostly of sugar water. My older sister Maya had ditched me hours ago to hang out with her friends near the bandstand, leaving me to navigate the throng alone. I needed the bathroom. The permanent park facilities were on the far side, always with a ridiculously long queue snaking out the door. But they always set up a row of grim-looking portable toilets near the service entrance at the edge of the woods, tucked away behind the generator trailers and piles of discarded prize boxes. It wasn't the nicest spot. The ground was mostly gravel and weeds, and the cheerful din of the fair felt muffled back there, replaced by the growl of the generators and the scent of diesel fumes mingling unpleasantly with the chemical tang of the toilets. But the line was usually short. As I rounded the corner of the humming generator trailer, I saw him. Oakley the owl, our town mascot. He was supposed to be a symbol of Oak Haven's wisdom and community spirit or something like that. Usually whoever was sweating inside the suit, typically a high school volunteer earning community service. Ours would be near the entrance gate, high-fiving kids or posing awkwardly for photos. But here he was, standing stock still between 2 faded blue porta potties, half hidden in the shadow cast by the tall oak trees bordering the park. Something felt immediately off. The costume, usually a bright, cartoonish brown and white, looked dull, almost grimy. Patches of the fake fur were matted down, dark with sweat or something worse. One of the big plastic yellow eyes seemed slightly askew, tilted downwards as if contemplating the stained gravel at its feet. He wasn't waving or bobbing his oversized head. He was just standing there, silent, watching me. A flicker of unease, cold despite the oppressive heat, traced its way up my spine. I hesitated, my need to use the bathroom suddenly warring, with a primal urge to turn and run back towards the noise and lights of the fair. Hi Oakley, I managed, my voice sounding small and thin. The owl's head didn't move, but I heard a faint rustling sound from inside the suit, like stiff fabric rubbing together. Then, slowly, one of the felt-covered wings lifted, not in a wave, but in a deliberate beckoning gesture towards the narrow gap between the porta potties and the chain-link fence that separated the park from the dense woods beyond. I shuffled my feet, staying put. I gotta use the bathroom. Another rustle from inside the suit. Then a voice, low and muffled, distorted by the thick owl head. It didn't sound like the cheerful, booming voice Oakley usually adopted. This was a dry, papery whisper. Secret. Path. Back here. My heart started to thud against my ribs. Secret path? Why would Oakley be showing me a secret path behind the toilets? The volunteers were always told to stay within the main fairgrounds. No. I'm good, I said, taking a hesitant step backwards. The owl took a shuffling step towards me. The movement was wrong. Stiff, jerky. Not the usual clumsy waddle of someone in a mascot costume. It was more like something was dragging itself forward. The smell hit me then, stronger than the diesel and chemical cleaner, a musty, cloying odor like damp earth and old clothes. Better prizes? The muffled voice rasped, slightly louder this time. The beckoning wing twitched. Special ones for you. My eyes darted to the costume's feet. Below the slightly too short brown felt trousers, I could see shoes. Not the big, comical owl feet that were part of the suit, but actual shoes. Muddy brown work boots, scuffed and worn, scraping unnervingly against the gravel with each stiff movement. I glanced towards the gap he was indicating. It led to a darker section behind the service area, where the fence was bent inwards, bordering the thick, shadowed undergrowth of the woods. No prizes back there, just shadows and silence. My breath caught in my throat. This wasn't right. This wasn't Oakley. The fake yellow eye seemed fixed on me, but behind the mesh of the other eye hole, I thought I saw a flicker of something else. Dark, intent. Definitely not the face of a teenage volunteer. He took another dragging step closer. The wing lowered slightly, the felt talons seeming to curl inwards. Come on, Leo. He knew my name. Panic, sharp and icy, flooded through me. How did he know my name? I hadn't said it. My $20 felt suddenly worthless. My need for the bathroom forgotten. All I could think about was the muffled voice, the wrongness of the shoes, the dead stare of the plastic eye, and the darkness behind the fence. Just as the figure raised its wing again, maybe to grab me, maybe just to gesture more insistently, another voice cut through the heavy air, sharp and blessedly familiar. Leo, what are you doing lurking back here? Mom's having a fit. It was Maya. She was standing near the generator trailer, hands on her hips, silhouetted against the brighter lights of the fair beyond. Relief washed over me so intensely, my knees almost buckled. I didn't look back at the owl. I just turned and scrambled towards my sister, tripping over my own feet on the loose gravel. Maya, that guy, Oakley, What about him? She asked, grabbing my arm. Honestly, Leo, wandering off like that. Come on. I risked a glance over my shoulder as she pulled me away. The space between the porta potties was empty. Oakley the owl was gone. There was no sign of him, just the humming generators, the stained gravel, and the imposing silence of the woods pressing against the bent fence. He couldn't have just vanished. He must have slipped through that gap into the trees. Later, I tried to tell my parents. Between bites of a corn dog, my dad chuckled. Oakley probably just needed a break, son. It's hot in that suit. Maybe he went behind the toilets for some privacy. But he talked to me. He knew my name. And he smelled weird, and his shoes were wrong, I insisted, feeling frustrated tears welling up. My mom patted my shoulder. Honey, you have a big imagination. Maybe you were just a bit spooked being back there alone. It is kind of creepy, by the generators. Maya typically offered no support. He was probably just trying to be friendly, weirdo. You always overreact. We asked one of the fair organizers later, a tired-looking woman with a clipboard. She confirmed the volunteer playing Oakley, some kid named Tim, had taken an unscheduled break around that time, complaining of the heat. But he swore he'd stayed, in the air-conditioned volunteer tent the whole time. No one else reported seeing the mascot near the service entrance or the woods. They even brought out the costume head for me to see later, propped on a table in the volunteer tent. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, it just looked like cheap plastic and felt, maybe a bit worn. But the eye wasn't askew anymore, and it didn't smell like anything but stale sweat and disinfectant. It didn't feel like the same head, but I knew. I knew what I saw, what I heard, what I smelled. The dragging shuffle, the muddy work boots beneath the felt trousers, the deadness behind one eye and the darkness behind the other, the rasping whisper that knew my name. It wasn't Tim, the volunteer. It was someone else, hiding inside the cheerful costume, waiting in the shadows at the edge of the bright, noisy fair, waiting for someone small and alone. I never felt the same way about Founders Day after that. The smell of popcorn still makes my stomach clench. Every time I saw a mascot, any mascot, a cold dread would trickle down my spine. Because I knew how easy it would be. How easy it would be to put on a smiling face, a fuzzy suit, and lure someone away from the lights, into the shadows where no one would hear them scream. I knew that the real monsters didn't always have claws and fangs. Sometimes they wore owl costumes and whispered about secret prizes. And sometimes they almost got you.